Yes, back there.
I get all my news from the Onion. And the lead story today has a headline, Bush calls for panic. It's time to put aside our differences, come together as a nation, and seriously freak out. And I think this was in regard to his recent speech. Would you comment on, say, the difference between how our current president is handling this great financial crisis with past presidents who have had to face such crises?
I don't know if you can all hear her. What she has the current issue of the Onion, which has the headline on the front page is something like Bush asked country to panic, and the question is to compare the current administration's leadership to past ones. I mean, I was a couple of weeks ago, I guess it's sometime in the recent past, during one of the days of crashing, I went and looked up FDR's fireside chats, and those are actually quite, that of course the headline is, you know, the fake news, but it does, it is a fairly accurate description of the situation right now, and I actually do recommend going back and reading the fireside chats of Roosevelt, the ones, you know, that he gave to buck up the nation during the Great Depression, because, you know, we all know that the famous phrase of his about there's nothing to fear but fear itself, but so much of content in the fireside chat is an ongoing argument against fear, and sort of an exploration of how fear degrades a people, and how we must guard against panic, and how we must do this together, and we must, you know, we must have this new national will, almost against our own, you know, worst inclinations, and the inclination to panic. And the other thing that's so nice about those chats is how inclusive they are, and how, you know, he talks about, he kind of breaks each problem down like banking or something, what the president can do, what the rest of the government can do, what the bankers can do, and what you, the people, can do. And one of your main responsibilities, according to him, is to not panic. So it was just kind of refreshing to go back and read them, especially, I mean, in the time, the fear-mongering and the financial panic right now it just seems to me just more fear in an administration that is all about fear-mongering and drumming up its own kind of terror. So, I don't know if that answers your question, but it's worth reading the FDR. You. Please stand up, you know.
Get more specifically back to the book. Don't you say at the beginning that Winthrop actually made off with the charter of the Massachusetts Bay Colony kind of illegally, like he wasn't actually supposed to bring it with him?
The question is if Winthrop brought the charter to Massachusetts illegally. That's the old wives' tale, that Winthrop was such an evil genius who thought, oh, if I just stick this in my suitcase and take it physically to New England, then we'll be able to, you know, engage in self-government without, you know, input from the king. But really, and that's what most histories of colonial Massachusetts say up until, you know, recently. But really, some recent scholars and librarians have uncovered several other charters and patents preceding that, in which this is a very, sorry, not very interesting point, really, but I guess the old wives' tale is they brought the charter with them, and it was all sneaky, and then the king wants that charter, and he's all, what? Where'd it go? You know, and he doesn't have any power to intervene in Massachusetts. But really, there were several other preceding groups of colonials elsewhere who had brought their legal documents with them, and what it basically meant was that they could hold the meetings of the Massachusetts Bay Company in Massachusetts, and most other colonial groups with colonial charters were required to have their corporate meetings back in England. So the fact that Winthrop and his group, like a few that preceded him, brought their legal documents with them and could have their meetings in Massachusetts, they did exploit that more than any other colonial group before, and they engaged in a form of self-rule that was, you know, fairly Republican and progressive for the time, and so there's that. Oh, right, sorry.
A lot of your books seem to be East Coast centric. Have you ever thought about writing about West Coast history?
My books are East Coast centric. Have I thought about writing about West Coast? I mean, I did a story for the radio last year about Charles Preuss, the cartographer on the Fremont expedition, and most of his diaries, which Charles Preuss was one of the most talented cartographers of the 19th century, who nevertheless hated every single thing about actual exploring. He was really good at drawing, and his journal, he wrote these journals that are sort of really hilarious complaints about you know, the hardships, the food, and especially the lack of salt for the food. Fremont gets on his nerves, the Indians, his fellow, you know, everyone else on the expeditions. So I did write about that, and, you know, a lot. I'm like, he's so obsessed with food. Like, at one point, he was writing in his journal about, you know, he's very happy for once because they're about to barter some rock salt from some nearby Indians, and he's waiting for the salt to show up so he can put it on his meat. And he's like really excited about this, that he doesn't mention what the expedition is doing that day, which is discovering Lake Tahoe. Like that he doesn't mention, but he's like really excited about the salt. And my next book might be on the history of Hawaii, so that's west of here even, but I don't know, I didn't really think if I'm East Coast centric. I guess when you write a bit about the government, the national government, and you know how it's kind of headquartered there, but I myself am a Montanan, yeah.